And we're live. Welcome back, guys. This is another episode of the Solvable Mysteries Podcast. I believe this is episode number 90. So, another small milestone for the podcast. My name is Juras, and I'm joined by Glenn Highcove. How are you feeling, man?
Hey, I'm doing all right. I was gonna say if 10 more episodes, it's like a little bit of a joke, but in television, the old rule was if you hit like 100 episodes, you went into syndication, and that was like extra money because then you
Oh,
were like Gilligan's Island, where you kept getting getting shown again and again. So
wow.
yeah, but yeah, no, I'm doing awesome. I got to go to the beach for the first time this year, and we went in the water, and it was like it was cold.
Yeah, I think so, dude. Because
It's
we
like, yeah.
we had like a snowstorm, and actually they're still reporting a lot of snow in the upcoming week, which is fantastic. But I think we can definitely jump to this week's case. So this week we're gonna be talking about a very interesting mystery. It's a complete disappearance. It's like I would say it's a type of a disappearance that you could like match with, I don't know, Brian Schaefer ish, maybe Asha Degree as well, because we have a 14-year-old boy from England, from the city of Doncaster. Well, he lived in the suburb of Doncaster, in Balby, who just decided to go on a trip to London all of a sudden, and this trip was completely out of the ordinary for Andrew Gosden, is the boy that we're referring to, and he never goes back. And I can't wait to get into all of this. Before we do, dude, anything you wanna add? To the any disclaimers or anything like that before we jump right into, I guess, what happened.
No, I mean, just we've had so many good comments lately and a lot of good feedback. I think I'm trying to think if this was possibly one of the suggestions we got from one of our fans. But just a reminder, of course, subscribe, hit like if you like this episode, and please do continue to make recommendations for what you'd like to hear about because, as you might notice, we always, and I'm by you, I mean obviously our viewers and listeners, we always do go through the comments and add in the names that you suggest. So, you help us make the show better.
Exactly. Okay, so given that, I think we definitely should start off with, I guess, the background of Andrew Gosden. And I guess after that, we can definitely jump to the day when he disappeared, which was in 2007, on the 14th of September. So this is actually, as of today, this is 13 years, 6 months, and 19 days that Andrew has went missing. I would say it's a pretty big disappearance case in the UK, especially. They had famous bands, because Andrew was a fan of music, trying to help out the family locate Andrew and so on. So I think it's a good time for us to start talking a little bit about Andrew. And Andrew was not a typical kid. Andrew was apparently a very smart kid, academically, like he was in the top 5%, and apparently he was really good at math. So, he was a really smart kid. He grew up in Balby. He had a sister, Charlotte, and he was living with his parents, Kevin Gosden and Glennis Gosden. So, right off the bat, the first thing about their family structure that really was interesting for me personally is the fact that the parents, they were really religious, but I would say probably in the best way possible to be religious, where you don't force your religion upon your kids. Because here where I'm from, everyone's following a certain religion, and they all get baptized. Like, they baptize their kids when they're like, I think, I don't know, at the age of 1 or 2, and the kid's not doesn't really understand what's happening. Usually, it ends up with the kid crying because like some scary priest guy is pouring like cold water on on the kid's forehead. So it's probably like a traumatic event for the kid. But Andrew's parents, they were like, even though we are like Anglicans, like really devout Anglicans, we're not gonna enforce our religion on the kids, and we will let them decide if they want to get baptized. So, any initial thoughts on your end regarding that?
I'm curious, what's the predominant religion where you live?
Uh, where we live, I think it's the Roman Catholics. Like everyone's a Roman Catholic, if you know what I mean. Like it's the
Okay, interesting.
yeah,
Yeah,
like Poland, yeah, and things like that.
that makes sense. But then in some of the neighboring countries, it would be like what, Eastern Orthodox?
Yeah, so basically Russia and the Belarus, I think they're definitely the Orthodox. And then to the north of us, Latvia, Estonia, they are the more of a Protestants. You know what I mean? I think Lithuania is actually the most northern Eastern Roman Catholic state in Europe, pretty much. You know, because we're
Oh wow.
like we're like the border for the Roman Catholics.
Okay, no, that makes sense.
Yeah. So, what do you make of the parents? I think I personally think
Yeah,
the parents are really cool for doing that. You know what I mean?
yeah, that was the sense I got when I listened to some of the research on the episode, was including an interview with Andrew's father. Was they seemed um, fairly, I guess, open-minded. Like you said, they were not not orthodox. I don't mean orthodox like in the like the official religion, but in terms of like you said, whether you were going to force your family members to adhere to it or not. And I think it was to the point where I think his sister, was it Charlotte? Is
Yeah.
that her name?
Yeah.
Was already kind of making the choice to maybe not go to church, or not really practice anymore. So
Exactly.
that was, yeah.
And Andrew was following in her footsteps because Charlotte was his older sister, and he was doing the same. Actually, 8 months before he disappeared, he had stopped going to church completely, and this was one of the maybe factors in this case that caused a lot of suspicion for internet web sleuth, because they're like, could this be somehow connected? Personally, I don't think so. At the age of 14, if I had the choice to not go to church, because back in the day, I was still like sort of attending the church sometimes, because but right around that age, I think I also stopped like going to church because I was like, I don't know. I don't really feel like doing that anymore. So it was pretty, I think, a normal decision on the parents' part. So a few other interesting points about Andrew is that Andrew apparently was a fan of music, and for a 14-year-old boy, he liked interesting bands such as Slipknot, right, and other heavy metal bands. So that's definitely, I think, he was in the minority, wouldn't you agree?
Yeah, I have, like I said, maybe this is a generational thing, because I always remember, like I said, I'm really trying to make sure I say things in a fair way, um, because everybody's got their musical tastes. And like I mean, I would call it heavy metal music, or something that's like in that same vein. And I think the Slipknot and the name of the band refers to like the knot on a noose.
Yeah.
So it's kind of dark. Yeah, I mean, it's interesting because my impression of that kind of music, because by the way, like given his religious background, you could see how like some people from that background would just tell their kid like, oh no, you can't listen to that, right? Because they would have maybe notions that it was like satanic music, or that music, it was music about evil things or dark things. And I don't know. I mean, I think it's more complicated than that. Like I think sometimes, especially for teenagers or young people, the stuff that's being expressed in those songs is like very strong emotional content. So it
Yeah.
tends to attract kids that maybe are going through some stuff in their life. It's always interesting because it never was my kind of music. Like there's definitely some good heavy metal songs, like everyone's got their like. You ever heard that song, "Un Unforgiven" by Metallica?
Nah, I don't think I'm familiar with a lot of heavy
Uh,
metal, unfortunately.
I mean, I would say even people that are not into heavy metal, like that's a good one. Where like that's like a song that's got like some really
Hmm.
poignant stuff. But that's I think that's one of the first things I perked up at when I looked at this. It's interesting because we haven't really run into this that much, surprisingly, before for all the content that we've covered. But it makes me interested because from a kid coming from that religious background, you could see some kids would just do that to rebel, right?
Exactly.
Like, oh, mom and dad are about Jesus, so I'm going to be about this stuff. But I think it was a little more complicated than that, and it makes you wonder, given that we're going to find out he's not really that expressive a kid. It's kind of a strong it's a strong statement in a way. You know what I mean? Especially that he's wearing the shirts and stuff.
Yes,
It's not like he's
yes.
just like when I was listening to like NWA and stuff, Public Enemy, when I was
Yeah.
like in the '90s, I wasn't wearing their shirts or their
Exactly,
hats or anything. You know
exactly.
what I mean? But this
Yeah.
kid's out there with like the shirts of all these like bands. I don't know. So that was like
That's a good point.
interesting. You know what
Yeah.
I mean? It's like a lifestyle choice. And I remember like, by the way, I'll just say that the other half of my statement, I guess, is that the kids that I remember wearing it, I mean, a lot of them were going through, I feel like, some difficult stuff in their life
Oh, okay.
at that point. Like, I only remember, I hate to say it, one or two of them even being kind of normal. And I mean, don't get me wrong, like, it wasn't, which isn't to put them down. For sure, they were like, in many cases, smart, creative, talented kids,
Yeah.
but like stuff was going on. So
I
that's,
bet. Yeah.
yeah, make of that what you will.
I definitely agree with what you're saying here, because I feel like wearing the shirt is an actual statement. Like I like certain music types, but I don't, own like any, fan stuff like shirts and things like that. So, but maybe I think kids are more inclined to own those things in the first place, and I don't think it's like super weird, to be honest. Now, moving forward in the story, he was also he was at just around the time when he disappeared, like he also was attending Cub Scouts. uh he was like a Cub Scout. He was doing scouting activities as a kid, but he had told his father that he would no longer involve himself with the Cub Scout group a few months before his disappearance. So I think it actually correlates a little bit with what you're saying, because he stopped going to church 8 months before he disappeared, which is I think normal. Stopped doing Cub Scouts 2 months before he disappeared. And I think this is a good point to jump to another thing, that, as I've said, by the way, for everyone who's watching this on our YouTube channel, we are just on Doncaster right now. So this is like the city where he grew up. I think it's like a super English city. I really like it, actually. Basically, as I've said, he disappeared on the 14th of September. So, just as the school year had began, and as I've entailed earlier, like his whole idea was to just go to London, and for some reason, just take a train to London. Now we're gonna try to figure out why he did that. But beforehand, I want to mention one very important fact, that Andrew was actually familiar with London, right? Like he had his grandmother living in London, and he has been there on multiple occasions. And Kevin Gosden, Andrew's father, had stated that he believes that Andrew had very, not necessarily very good knowledge, but definitely had good enough knowledge to handle himself in London. Apparently, he knew how the bus system worked. I believe the metro system worked in London, and he also had a general, I would say, understanding of the city. Right? I mean, that's what I've gathered. I think you should have this information as well, right?
Yeah, that came up in a couple of the different things I listened to, including the interview with his father, where they had multiple relatives in London. They had taken trips as a family on public transportation to get there. So, like, they were very familiar with the ropes. And then, he's at an age where he's, like, old enough to to have confidence in that and just literally do it himself, as we'll find out. He
Yeah.
definitely was able to do it himself. But yeah, it was like it was kind of like if you lived in the outskirts of like New York City or someplace, not that far from New York City, and you had all these family, and then you were going all the time for trips there. It's almost like a second home to him in some small ways.
Exactly. By the way, one other thing I think it's very important to mention here, I only found this mentioned in, I think, a few areas, in a few sources. Maybe it's something that the family said, so I think it holds value. I think there's a notion out there that since Andrew was really smart, like academically, he was really good. He had like 100% attendance record at his Macaulay Catholic High School. He was also, really good at, he was getting really good grades. But I think where he was lacking was in his street smarts, if you know what I mean. Like he was academically very smart. I got the sense that maybe he has been a little bit sheltered throughout his life and he may not be super street smart, you know what I mean? In a sense that for him being 14 in London, which is, dude, it's an intimidating city for everyone, trust me. I think even for you, dude, like I know you grew up in Los Angeles and California, but dude, if you would go to London, that would be intimidating for you as well, for like for the first time. Like, I've been there like once. Dude, it's a pretty, I don't know, it's definitely an experience when you've never been there before. So I think for a 14-year-old kid, I think, wouldn't you say, like there's some high chances that things could go wrong. Uh, you know?
Yeah, it's almost like, I mean, I don't want to say he has it too good, but he has it like maybe on the gentler side of
Yeah.
British society where, yeah, I mean, I know this even just from talking to some of my coworkers in different projects where they talk about growing up in some of the other parts of England, where I just, yeah, I see exactly what you're saying, that he may have not been exposed to the kind of violence and other behavior that is more common maybe outside of the suburbs that he lives in.
Exactly. And I guess, the family also described him as being a homebird. So this is why this trip is super uncharacteristic for Andrew Gosden, is the fact that he would always stay at home. Now, he did have friends. It was not like he was a loner. He actually had, from what I've gathered, a pretty cool group of friends who were, like-minded individuals. I think they were all academically very good. Also, Andrew was in the Young, Gifted, and Talented program, which is basically just a program that England has for, I guess, kids that are really in the top, like 5% at a certain, I guess, I don't know, like math or English or whatever. You know what I mean? So,
Yeah,
yeah,
I perked up at that because this aligns with some of my own experiences in the magnet program. That's what we call it, at least in my part of the United States, is the magnet program. So
yeah.
for kids that are um, either have high IQs or quote unquote high achievers. It's funny because his dad was saying that he couldn't, that his son, the Andrew was much smarter than he was, and he couldn't he couldn't figure out where it came from.
Yeah. Uh, okay, I didn't hear that quote, but it's pretty interesting. Okay, so before we jump to the story, because I think it's just about time for us to jump in the story, one last thing to mention here is that Andrew was actually 14, but he seemed a lot younger. He was 5'3" inches, which is 160 centimeters. So I've heard like quotes being thrown out there that he was maybe. He may have been 14, but if you would ask anyone, they would probably be more inclined to guess that he's around 12, if you know what I mean. So apparently, Andrew looked a little bit younger for his age, and that's also a key factor in my opinion. So okay, so let's jump to what had happened. Okay, so this is all happening in September 14th 2007. So just a week, or maybe like let's say a week and a half into the new school year. One other interesting point regarding the summer. So he spent his summer vacation at home pretty much, just, reading books because he was into reading books and playing video games. I believe I don't know if he had like a video game console, but he had a PSP, which is a portable PlayStation. It's that little portable like a gaming console. I used to really want one when I was a kid, but I never had it. So I definitely know that if I had it, I'd be on it like all day back in the day, if you know what I mean. So let's. You're right. So what I was gonna say is that during summer, the parents actually offered Andrew to go visit his grandmother in London alone, right? Because let's remember that he's growing up in Doncaster, like in the air, like in the city of Doncaster, and you know, London, just as the crows fly, quick little estimation here, it's 225 kilometers. Okay, so that's. I just want to quickly get the mile quote as well, just for our, American audience. So the mile quote would be 144 miles. So, it's a pretty big trip for a 14-year-old kid to go alone, to spend the summer with his grandmother. But he decided not to do that. He was, gonna just do his regular activities, reading books, playing video games, just doing what he does best. Now, the new school year starts, and immediately I want to ask you a question because apparently, Andrew Gosden was from the suburb of Doncaster called Balby. Now, I don't have the exact house location, unfortunately, or the school that he went to be honest, but apparently, the trip, one-way trip, is like apparently around. I don't want to like put out any bad information, but I've read somewhere that it was around 6 kilometers. So it's natural for a kid to take a school bus. Now he was taking the school bus from his home to his school, but he all of a sudden decided to go back on foot like every time, and he would never do this before in his life. But now 1 week before he disappeared, he's already not driving back from school to home via the bus, but he's walking like a super long distance every week, like every day, I mean. So does like what's happening here? Do you think this could have some sort of a connection to the overall disappearance?
Yeah, it's definitely weird. I mean, I'll have to look up what that is, but I feel like that's about what, a 3 or 4 mile walk. That's right. I mean,
Probably
it's
a
not.
little less, maybe two or something like that, I would say.
Yeah, I mean, it's not crazy, but it just it seems a little odd. I mean, it doesn't like seem like the kid was super athletic, like he was, trying to get in shape or something.
Right.
So yeah.
And every day, by the way. So, I mean, I think we'll throw it back a little bit later on the show to this. One other interesting point is, since this is all happening on September 14th, on September 13th, so the day before he disappeared, he woke up. Normally, he was apparently a really, like a really punctual kid. He never missed school. He would never have to get encouraged to wake up. He did what he had to do. He was like a really tidy, kid. Had like a routine that he did after he went back from school, back to home. He would like, put his clothes in a certain manner every single time, the same manner. He put his like school uniform, I think, in the washers. So he was really punctual. But on the day when he did disappear, he was not punctual. Now let's throw it back a little bit to September 13th before we jump to the events of September 14th. So September 13th, he does a super like natural thing that he would do all the time, which is why this was super scary for me when I was like listening to this. He apparently showed no indications the day before of running away, of deciding to go to London. He had none of that. He just pretty much did regular stuff. Like he apparently did like a jigsaw puzzle with his father. Then he watched some English sitcoms with his mother in the living room. He did like what he did every single day. So this is why it was so scary, because oh my god, like people could maybe hide their plans really well, if you know what I mean.
Yeah, it was very strange. I mean, well, a lot of things about the kid are a little bit weird, almost because he's like so well put together with his habits and staying on top of things. And then I was when you were describing him, I, I was almost resenting him a little bit. Where I was like, "Gosh, I wish I could have. Everything could have been so easy for me when I was a little kid." But like I see it even now with my daughter, where like she's just like me, where we're definitely not putting our school uniforms in the wash every day, and not not just breezing through school like he was breezing through it. Like things were not so easy. So it is seems so strange. Maybe that's why it makes somebody like that so able to conceal, you know what I
Yeah,
mean,
yeah.
because they're so easy, so they're able to run multiple projects.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
That's a good point, man. Okay, so moving on into the September 14th, the day when he disappeared. Now it started off messed up immediately. He did not wake up on time. I believe his parents almost had to like wake him up or something like that. He did, because it was a school day, so he did not wake up on time. And I have a timeline of the day when he went missing, which is very important for us to go through, and then we'll jump to what we think may have happened. Now, one really interesting point I've seen here thrown out, and without stopping here for too long, I want to dish it back to you immediately and ask for your opinion, but just like a quick opinion. He apparently breaks his habit of waking up on time. Wouldn't you agree that there's a chance that he was maybe during the sleep time from the 13th to the 14th was contemplating whether or not he should do something, like go to London? Is he going to do that? And wouldn't you agree that maybe those ideas in his head during that night kept him awake for maybe most of the night, and he couldn't get a good night's sleep? That's why he woke up all like messed up and sleepy. Wouldn't you agree that maybe he was contemplating something beforehand, and that's why he had like a bad night's sleep, I would say?
Yeah, if it was me, for sure. I mean, I've had back then and even now that stuff keep me up. I mean, I gotta be honest, this kid's kind of like an alien to me a little bit because of some of the stuff, even that we'll mention later about some of his other habits. But it says here that in the description of him that he wasn't even like moody, and I'm like, what 14-year-old isn't moody? So
Yeah,
that's weird. Like I almost wonder if he was a little bit hormonally delayed. I mean, which isn't I don't mean that in a bad way. I mean, like, kids go through different growth spurts, so it sounds like he hadn't really hit his yet.
yeah,
You even look like literally the picture. I mean, he was starting to hit it because the pictures from right before this, no joke, he looks like a little kid. But at least in the pictures from like around the time,
yeah,
including the surveillance, he looks a little bit older, like he's starting to hit like
yeah.
man hormones. But yeah, I mean the other thing I wanted to just quickly note was this was similar to that Asha Degree case. Remember where
Yep.
she had stayed up part of the night, so it makes you wonder if any of that time was spent making secret preparations,
Wow.
even though it looks like he didn't really bring anything.
Exactly. Just to throw it back to Asher degree, I had like a little thought about it, like the day before yesterday, I think, and I was thinking to myself, that's super scary. Like Asher degree is actually insanely scary. So for everyone who doesn't really know what I'm talking about, please go listen to our Asher Degree episode. Like that case is just frightening, to be honest. Now let's jump to the events, right? So yeah, I'll just go through the timeline. So we have September 14th, 7 a.m. to 8:05 a.m. in the morning. Andrew Gosden woke up late and seemed irritable. So it was unusual because he always stuck to his routine. We already talked about that. Now, what happened after 8:05 a.m.? So he told his parents, and I believe maybe Charlotte as well, his sister, he told them all, "See you later." So these are the final words that he had told his parents. "See you later." One other thing very interesting that we want to mention here is that Andrew didn't have a cell phone because apparently he had multiple cell phones, but he just kept losing them. And and I think 2 months before his disappearance, he had lost his cell phone. And when the parents offered him to get like a new one, he was like, "I would rather have an Xbox." So he was not really into cell phones. So I think we'll may have this. Maybe we'll discuss it later on. So he says, "See you later," and he's out the door. He's apparent. Everyone expects him to just walk to the bus station. Now, Andrew was actually seen walking across the local park, the Westfield local park. Now we have this Westfield local park, and he was actually seen here by, I believe, a family friend or like a neighbor. So I think Westfield local park is a little bit. Oof, what just happened? I have no idea what just happened. Okay, so this is the park, right? But wait, maybe we could just okay. Yeah. So basically, he was seen in this park at around 8:30 a.m. Uh, and I think he was seen. Now, let me just make this correct. He was seen by a family friend, Reverend Alan Murray. Uh, so Alan Murray spots him walking here. So we definitely know that 8:30 he was seen here. That's like a fact. Now, his bus stop, I'm sorry, was supposed to be somewhere around this park, but he doesn't go to the bus stop. Apparently, he goes to like an ATM and he withdraws 200 pounds from his ATM, from his bank account. Now, he had 214 pounds in the ATM. However, the ATM only allowed to take out 20-pound bills out of, the machine. So there was no way for him to get all of his money out. So he just got 200 pounds out, but he also had money back in his home that he had left. He had left another additional 100 pounds that he had collected over like birthday presents and so on. And he just decided to leave that money. And now he is taking 200 pounds out of the ATM. Dude, you have any input on that? What are your opinions?
I mean, it's so bizarre because, like you said, yeah, he had left 100, like he left a third of his fortune behind at home. So it really seems like he thought that he had more than enough. And I just surmised that whatever his goal was a short term goal for him to need his own money, if that makes sense.
Exactly. But after he goes to the ATM, he doesn't actually go straight to the train station that we'll talk about shortly that he took to go to London. He actually goes back home, and he knew that right now everyone's gonna be gone. Charlotte's gonna be on her way to school, and the parents will have left for work. So it's a sneaky move, and it sort of indicates to me that this was all premeditated on Andrew's part. That he pretty much had a plan. You know what I mean? He had a plan to go get this money. Maybe the money doesn't even. Maybe he doesn't even need the money. Now I just had this idea. Maybe the money is just something for him to do until everyone leaves. So he maybe goes, "Oh, okay, I'll just grab the money, whatever." So maybe the money actually doesn't even play a big part for Andrew. Maybe it's just something that sure, what the heck, I'll just go grab the money while I'm waiting until everyone leaves the house. Now he goes back to the house, and apparently he does literally like the same exact routine that he would do that like would he had gone to school and came back. So I'm reading here that he goes back home, that's vacant right now. He changed out of his school uniform. He hung his school blazer on the back of a chair and, put the rest of his uniform in the wash, something he did literally every day. Now, he put on his black slipknot t shirt, black jeans, black wristwatch, and packed his black canvas bag. Now, he had keys, he had his wallet, and he had his PSP game console, but he didn't have the charger. And he left the additional 100 pounds, you know, at his house. Now, this is like a super weird situation because it doesn't make any sense when you think about it. And I want to pose to you a question right now. Maybe you'll make some sense of it because I can't make any sense right now. So, yeah.
Sorry, let me just ask the question
Okay,
first.
okay. Yeah, okay, okay. So basically, my question for you is he takes money, right? So it's almost like he's preparing to leave somewhere, like for maybe a longer time. And then before I explain to you the whole question, I want to also mention the fact that when he goes to the train station to buy the ticket to go to London, the person who sells him the ticket offers him a ticket back home as well for like a 5% of its cost, so only a fraction of the cost, because when you buy a ticket one way, the ticket back is like super cheap. It's like almost nothing. It's almost like a free ticket back, like literally, like I don't know, like just pennies. But he denies that. So he doesn't buy the ticket back. So he only buys a one way ticket to London, indicating that he is not planning to return back home. But he doesn't take his PSP charger, which is like literally doesn't take up any space. And you would think that he would take his PSP charger if he's planning to run away or not return home because he didn't buy the ticket. But if he doesn't take the charger, that immediately indicates to me that maybe he plans to be back on the same day. But then why doesn't he buy the super cheap, inexpensive ticket back from London? So do you make it? Does did I make any sense here? And what are your opinions, man?
No, those are the exact questions. I think that's the crucial set of questions. Well, let me rewind it for 10 seconds. Here's the thing that you said. Well, one of two things you just said that really got me thinking. So the one thing is, like, he put his clothes in the laundry.
Yeah,
But why would you do that unless you were, planning to use them again, right? Because if you were leaving forever, well, who cares? Like, just drop them on the floor,
yeah,
throw them in the toilet. You know what I mean? Don't do that. But you know what I mean? Like, light them on fire. Who cares? Like, you're never gonna wear them again if you're
yeah,
planning to kill yourself, planning to do this or that. You're never coming back and running away. Why? I mean, other than just pure reflex or like some severe case of ADHD, why put the clothes in the laundry if you're not
exactly, man.
coming back? Yeah, the charger thing mystifies me. By the way, I had not even thought of that until you said that like the whole money errand thing was maybe an afterthought or just like a kind of a red herring, like a something to burn time. By the way, that's super ballsy of him to go back to the house because there's always some reason that mom and dad or somebody could be back at home. Like we even saw that um, in the other case of the guy that killed his family, where somebody was unexpectedly home, and he was kind of like juggling stuff because of a schedule that went off the rails a
Yeah,
little bit.
yeah,
Um, so that yeah, I mean it's weird that his timing is so precise on things, and then these little things like that. Yeah, to your point, I was thinking about this, like, why was the ticket back so cheap? And I realized, oh, it's because if you don't make the ticket back cheap, you can't even get people to pay to go to London. You know what I mean? Like if they needed to
Mm,
give people a reason. By the way, if you make it real cheap to go back to that town, then you're kind of like building that habit, right? But yeah, you're right. It was like literally 50 pence. So like for Americans, 50 cents. 50 cents more on like a 31 pound ticket. So, something close to like probably 40, $45 for American dollars. So
yeah.
like 50 cents more to go round trip. Why wouldn't you cover your bases? This kid seems to have everything so well planned. Now, one person suggested, this is interesting,
Yeah.
that maybe he thought whoever he was going to meet, if he was going to meet somebody, that they were going to maybe be able to bring him back. Like, that didn't totally make sense to me because, like, if he was dealing with someone who was, the same age, well, like, you can't drive a car when you're 14 in England, I don't
Yeah.
think.
Also,
Um,
just
yeah.
a quick step in because it's a very good point that you just mentioned here, and I was gonna address this as well. Even if that's the case, even if that's the predicament that you go to London and someone's gonna give you back, like I don't know, somehow that person is gonna get you back home, wouldn't you still pay 50 pence for the ticket back just in case? You know, it's like I mean, it's only 50 pence.
Yeah, it's being incredibly cheap, and there's no real point to do it. And then the charger thing, like you said, sometimes I think it's hard for everyone to relate, so we're just gonna be super, explicit about it. Not explicit, not in a bad way, but in like a stating it all out there. For a 14-year-old, that PSP, and this is before smartphones, right? So that's part of the reason why he doesn't really give a crap about having a phone, is because phones could only make phone calls and text
Yeah,
back then.
yeah,
So if you're not super social, like I wouldn't have wanted a phone either. Like my it would be more like probably my parents would want me having a phone, like a leash, because you couldn't do all the cool stuff you can do with phones now in 2008. So like that's the thing, is it's interesting to think of like that PSP was probably, I don't know. I mean, if it was me, it would be my most prized possession.
exactly, dude.
So
Yeah,
that charger, I don't even know that I would have been leaving that charger with at home. Like I feel like if I was bringing it with me to school or whatever he's doing, like why wouldn't you have it on the off chance that you could have a chance to top it off, or you're going to someone's house, you know, and you
yeah,
two are going to like network that thing, because I think there was a way to network them, even without the internet back then. So yeah, like. By the way, is it worth? I mean, maybe we'll just save it for the investigation. But there's like an interesting angle about the lack of other electronics and connectedness in his life and his family's life.
I think we could definitely leave that for the final discussions, if you know what
Okay.
I mean.
Yeah.
I think it's just about time that we move through the timeline. I really want to finish the timeline before we jump into anything else. So, continuing on with the timeline, right? So, Andrew is actually caught on a neighbor's CCTV camera walking towards the station. Now, let's disclose that he took the Doncaster train station to go all the way to London, and we actually have the CCTV footage. So I just want to quickly play for you. I don't know, dude. Maybe we could make some sense of the CCTV. So yeah, we're just seeing the CCTV. As you can see, the time is 9:05 in the morning. Yeah, I mean, just I just see like a kid walking. Maybe in a casual manner, maybe not necessarily in a super casual manner. I don't know how well you can see the CCTV footage, man. Maybe he seems like he's really determined. Now, I've not seen him walk, so maybe that's just how he walks. To me, maybe it reminds me of someone who's really determined to get to a certain place. But maybe that's just Andrew. You have any input on this CCTV?
I thought he was skateboarding for a second. He's moving pretty fast. Like he's not.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean he's walking like a man on a mission or
Exactly.
something.
Yeah. So basically, he walks, and he apparently at 9:32, Andrew arrives at the Doncaster train station. Now, as I've said, he only buys the one-way ticket to London in the cash. with in London in cash. He uses cash. Now the ticket seller was a female who later became a key witness. Actually, now she remembers that she would have, she offered him the ticket bag home for like a £1 or like 50 pence, like something super cheap, like literally nothing. Um, and pretty much Andrew insisted that he was only buying a single ticket, and this is exactly why this female ticket seller remembered Andrew so well and maybe thought that this was super strange because let's remember Andrew is 14, but he looks a little bit younger than that, so you almost could imagine the female ticket seller looking at almost like what she presumes a 12-year-old kid buying a one-way ticket to London and, not buying a ticket back. Maybe she assumed, oh, he's just going to meet like a grandmother or something like that. But still, it was odd enough that she actually, explicitly remembered Andrew. And, Andrew boards the train at, I believe, 9:32 a.m. So, just around, I would say 20, how much is this? 27 minutes after this CCTV footage. So yeah, we're still looking at the CCTV. So 27 minutes after that, after this walk, Andrew is already on the train and he arrives at 11:20 a.m. to London. So let's quickly go back to the Google Earth. He goes all the way back, as I've said, as the crows fly. It's over 140 miles to London King's Cross, King Cross's train station. We also have CCTV and we also have some unverified areas where he was seen, shortly after that. So I'll go over them really quickly. So, but before that, I think we should jump to the CCTV of the train station in London, right? So we're jumping to that, and yeah, we could pretty much see just him, with Slipknot walking out. Now, there's I don't necessarily want to go in this angle on the show how the police messed up on this case, because apparently this footage has only been recovered 1 month after he disappeared. So it's not like everyone could see this footage the next day. Initially, when I think London police checked the surveillance, they didn't locate Andrew, but then some local cops from Doncaster, I believe, or like Yorkshire, went down to London. Or like one person from there went to London. They actually managed to find like this whole, you know what I mean, clip or multiple clips of Andrew walking, like this clip right here. This as he's passing the man with the white shirt and the backpack on his back. This right here, this is the last time he's seen. So well, seen for a fact. There were multiple other sightings that are not verified, but the family believes that they are correct. Now, I'll be getting to them really shortly. I just want to quickly finish up the story, the timeline, and then we can jump immediately to the theories. So, as I've said, Andrew, this is, by the way, he's getting caught here on CCTV at 11:25 a.m. So just around noon. So it's definitely a little bit uncharacteristical, I would say, because he is a really young looking kid on his own in London during school hours, so I don't know, that may seem a little bit suspicious to some people. Yeah, so pretty much nothing else happens for like an hour, but an hour after that, and this is, as I've said, this is unconfirmed. There was, I believe, someone, I'm not sure if it was a woman or a man, but there was a sighting of Andrew that placed him at the Pizza Hut on Oxford Street. which is apparently 1 hour's walk away from King's Cross's station. And now, when I'm talking about unverified sightings, there had been over 100 unverified sightings, and for some reason, a lot of them actually in the city of Bristol. I think we'll mention it a little bit later on the show, or maybe right now. So if I'm just gonna be jumping to the Google Earth right now, right? So apparently, 11 of those sightings happened later on in Brighton. I'm sorry, not Bristol, but in Brighton, in the coastal town. But yeah, apparently he arrives at London's King's Cross train station at 11:30 p.m. A.m. I'm sorry, and at 12:30 p.m. So 1 hour later, 30 minutes past the afternoon, he's spotted at a Pizza Hut on Oxford Street. Now, I've tried to locate which of these Pizza Huts is the exact one, and actually I couldn't do that because we have one Pizza Hut that, as the crows fly, is like 1.2 miles away from the, crisscross King's Cross, I'm sorry, train station, and another one is like 2 miles as the crows flies. So one of these, because they're both Pizza Huts and they're both on Oxford Street. Maybe the Pizza Hut in 2007 was in a completely different location. Who knows? Because it's like newer information. But he is seen on a Pizza Hut in Oxford Street. Now, if you can see, this is the Oxford Street right here, and actually, Andrew was a big fan of Pizza Hut, more so than other, fast food chains. So this is why the family members believe that this was actually, this was where he was actually. And then also another sighting was uh, another sighting was in Covent Garden. So this is Covent Garden, and it's a touristy attraction location and things like that. And he has been, spotted there. But apparently, we don't have a lot of information about who spotted Andrew here. But we know that the person who spotted Andrew in Covent Garden, like this little touristy attraction right here in London, if we would just jump, to the Google Earth, yeah, it's definitely like a pretty cool touristy, place. There's a bunch of people here, as I've seen. The person who spotted Andrew was only interviewed by police 6 weeks after they spotted Andrew. You know what I mean? So police was definitely very late here. And just to top off the story before we jump to the, theories and what may have happened to Andrew, Andrew has been spotted all over the place apparently. But these are, in my opinion, the least less likely like sightings, because I do believe that the Pizza Hut sighting and the Covent Garden sightings are very strong. And I, during my research, I definitely had I had the notion that these two sightings were really credible. But now he was spotted days later, I believe, in the Waterloo station, walking in the Waterloo station with like warmer clothes already, arriving at Mortlake Station, so someone's apparently saw him there. Someone, I believe, saw him in Southwark, like days later. As I've said, there are multiple sightings. Yeah, he has been seen like apparently 11 times in Brighton, which is crazy because why Brighton, So yeah, that's pretty much it. He's never been, found ever again. Just to finish off how the day ended when he went missing. Well, at 6 p.m. in the evening, the family members, by 6 p.m. everyone had already returned home. But actually, they only found out that he was missing when they sat for dinner, because apparently it was typical for him to stay in the, I guess, in the basement and to be playing on his PSP. So everyone, even though they were back home already, they didn't necessarily think that he was missing, because they assumed he was just playing his PSP in the basement. But when the time to eat dinner came and they couldn't locate him, they really started to panic a little bit. Initially, they thought that maybe he had lost his sense of time and maybe had stayed at a neighbor's or a friend's. They called his friends, families, and they soon found out that he had not even went to school that day. Then apparently they called the school or something like that. And now the key fact here is that the school actually did try to notify the parents that Andrew is absent, but they dialed the incorrect phone number. So this is like Chiron hormone all over again, you know what I mean? So apparently another failure to inform the family that your kid is not attending school. And I don't know if this could have been prevented, maybe if the school actually managed to call the parents. Now Charlotte and Kevin, sister and the father of Andrew, they took the route that Andrew you know would have taken to go to school, but they couldn't find any evidence. Soon after, like they I guess got they I don't know how that whole situation went down, where they interviewed the lady who sold him the ticket. Then they found out that he was going to London. Month after that, there was a really inconsistent work on the police behalf, but a month later they did find the CCTV footage. And I know I'm talking a lot, and I promise you this is the last point that I want to mention, because I just want to get everything in before we discuss what may have happened to Andrew. London is apparently the most surveyed, like in terms of surveillance, city in Europe. Like there's a lot of surveillance cameras all over the place. But apparently, I don't know if they still work in the same manner. But back in 2007, when this disappearance took place, apparently they would only keep the CCTV footage that they record for like a month or so, or like maybe a few weeks, and then they would delete it to make room for the new footage. You know what I mean? So since police was really slow to detect to like go through the CCTV, all of the footage, potential other footage, because we only have those two clips, right? All of the other clips are gone forever, because I'm sure he would have been spotted somewhere else, maybe in the Covent Garden or something like that, because this area is probably super heavily surveyed. So, but we will never know, because that footage is already erased forever. And then lastly, for sure, the last point is that the police actually heavily focused on Kevin Gosden to be involved somehow for some reason. I really found it very suspicious, because maybe you will know this. What could have been like the potential catalyst for the police to suspect Kevin for his son's disappearance? I have no idea, but that's what they did for the longest time, and that's why they didn't get to watching the CCTV footage, because they were focusing on Kevin. So yeah, I know I've been talking for a long time. I need like a sip of water, dude. What is your take on everything, man?
I mean, a couple of things. I'll just answer the immediate thing you talked about. So, I mean, it wasn't just the police that were focusing on Kevin. Like you said, a lot of the internet sleuths and just Monday morning quarterback type people were pointing fingers at him. And here's the thing. I don't know if I mentioned this in the show before. Uh, my maternal grandmother, she was kind of like the de facto like principal or warden or whatever at a like had some kind of principal type at like a home for a home for wayward girls, I guess is what they would have called it back then in the state of Oregon. And I think she mentioned, gosh, when I was like a kid, that a lot of the girls were actually there. It was like a reform school, so it was like runaways, like runaway girls and girls that were in trouble.
Yeah.
But she said, frankly, the real truth was some amount of it was they were trying to get these girls away from their fathers, if you know what I mean. So there was like bad stuff going on at home.
Oh, okay.
Um, so I think, there's some truth behind some good amount of like kids that run away from home. It's maybe because of some kind of abuse at home, whether it's physical or, sexual or something else going on. There's other reasons too. It's not the only reason. And sometimes, like in cases like Asha Degree, it doesn't make sense at all. We can't, it's like a complete mystery, which I also feel like this is another one of those cases too, where that's what's so scary is you can't even really point to like a legitimate cause, and unfortunately it causes a lot of grief for the parents. Like, no kidding in this case, and that Andrew's father even mentioned it on the interview. He tried to kill himself. He tried to
Yeah.
hang himself. Someone,
Yeah.
someone, someone discovered him like hanging from a rope and cut him down in
Wow.
time. Yeah, I mean, this like kind of ruined his life, and I feel like he's probably been beat up enough. But I think that's probably why. It was just people just assume when a kid goes missing that the parents did it, and it's not always wrong, right? There's a lot of parents that do something to their kid or kill their kids and try to hide it. So maybe that's part of it. Maybe they didn't have a lot of runaways from this town. Now, by the way, the one thing I kind of looked at is I'm not one for like a lot of extra laws and rules, but it seems kind of weird to me that a kid under 18 can buy a one-way ticket, specifically a one-way ticket, to leave during, like you said, school hours, um, for like a pretty long distance. Like it's farther than going from like Los Angeles to San Diego. Um, so like that seems odd to me that you can do that and not have like a lot of questions. Just like right now, because of terrorism and stuff like that, if you try to buy like a one-way ticket with cash for an airplane ticket, which I know is a little bit of a different situation, but still, right? It raises suspicions, right?
Yeah.
So it seems weird to me because that to me sounds like a teenager running away. So just from I like England is especially good at being in everyone's business, and kind of nanny state type stuff. So it seems strange to me that this kid was able to kind of like do step one and two of the runaway teen playbook.
Maybe there should be like a system where, I don't know, the parents have to like give consent or something like that. If you know what I mean?
Yeah, exactly. Because I feel like you couldn't just buy, like, if you were him, you couldn't just buy like a plane ticket from like here to like San Francisco, or Vegas, and
Yeah.
just be on his own. And no, like an adult would have to be in the loop somewhere. So
Okay.
that's weird to me. The other things that concern me about the case is that, well, part of it is it's really hard to both figure out a lot of aspects about him, both in terms of like who may have been in contact with Andrew, but also like any kind of digital footprint, because the whole friggin' family didn't really have a digital footprint. So it turns out that like he didn't even have this is 2008, right? Is that right? The year?
7.
2007. So
Yeah.
even, but it's still like a good 10 years or so into like a lot of people having the internet and the internet becoming a big thing, like,
Um, I would actually differ a little bit here, dude, because
yeah,
I don't think in 2007, I don't really recall how old I was in 2007. I think
yeah,
if we had like an internet presence, dude, I wouldn't be so sure that we had it in like 2007 here. So, I mean, I know what you
okay,
mean because maybe in America, dude, I think this is the thing, dude. Maybe it's in America, maybe you all had that. Maybe, where I'm from. I think in 2007 it's not a given that everyone's gonna have like email addresses back then. Especially like where I'm from. So, I mean, you know what I mean?
it's a fair point, and I think I'm biased, of course, because at that point I was like a good almost 10 years into an internet career. So like,
Exactly, dude. Exactly, dude.
if
Exactly.
you if you work for like a movie studio on the internet, you might think that everybody has the internet. But I will say, obviously, like you said, adoption rates by country differed, and even like penetration of like broadband connections and things like that. It still seems. I'll tell you why it seems weird to me though. I'm gonna clear my throat for a second.
It's all good, dude. Yeah, I mean, I do agree that it's maybe weird, but I think yeah, it's not as weird, at least for me. You know what I mean?
Okay, yeah, yeah. To be fair, it is. I guess it is still, a good 14 years ago. Here's the other thing, though. For someone that is interested in bands, right?
Yeah,
So like YouTube was around. Okay, even then, YouTube was a couple years into its history. I think even like at that point, Google had bought it. Um, so YouTube was around. You like bands, so that's a good way to like see clips of the bands you like, right, for free, and then um, without using kind of those words that'll maybe trigger the wrong algorithms on YouTube. I'm going to dance around it and say the internet was a good way to get free music. So I'm not saying a certain word, so we don't get flagged for it. So that's also like, I mean, everybody I knew was getting free music from the internet back then. That's what happened to the music industry. So that's weird for a kid that's super into music and doesn't necessarily have a lot of spending cash, that he doesn't have not taking advantage of that. And then finally, the video game connection. My experience with video games, which has made, like I said, differ for a lot of other people, was that like the internet was like a big venue into it. Either I was playing online against other people, or I was finding out about games, or I was even at that point, I think I had like Steam, so I was like downloading games, for purchase, or sometimes people download games that they didn't purchase. Um, I guess that's interesting to me, and like you said, it may just be that I'm not being really realistic about suburban England in 2007,
yeah,
but it is odd to me, regardless, that even the parents were online. They're like working professionals in theory. The sister's the only one who, about 8 weeks before this whole thing, finally has like a laptop and they have some kind of like, I guess, internet connection at that point. But that's what's mystifying to me is like when I did the research and they went through these different scenarios, and I have to really give it credit because sometimes like we've done these other cases, like Michael Negrete or Brian Schaefer or fill in the blank, but there's some really disturbing disappearances where the people are just gone, right? And you're like, how did this happen? Like, what are the signs? And I think what's especially disturbing is this person's closer to being like a child than an adult. So some of the other explanations,
yeah,
either way, they're scary. But I think what is especially disturbing about this is, because we don't. Well, like, I guess what's disturbing is like they went through the whole list. They went through the whole list, dude. So like some of the things that the other people would have like said, oh well, we don't really want to talk about lifestyle choices, or things basically, quote unquote, like if maybe he was secretly gay and
yeah,
coming
yeah,
awakening to that and ran away from home because of that. Well, his dad covered that. His dad covered the suicide angle. His dad covered
yeah.
like all these different, and that's worth probably discussing in a second. But it was the only thing that I didn't hear them discuss, and I'm just gonna throw it
Hmm.
out there.
Yeah.
I mean, you're gonna maybe laugh or maybe be offended that
It's
like
okay.
maybe that maybe he went to go join something like ISIS. ISIS didn't exist yet, but like Al Qaeda did. So that,
Okay.
and by the way, from England, that's not unheard of. Now all this stuff with ISIS happened like 10 years
Dude,
after this, but
this is like
it's
a
it's not
crazy. Yeah, yeah,
it's
yeah.
it's nutty. But I'll tell you why I don't think it's as nutty as you think is because he's in the age where as a teenage boy
Okay.
specifically. Because look, he already is getting mistaken for a little kid, right? So if you were like had kind of a chip on your shoulder that you wanted to be more of a man or be perceived as a man, and I remember this at exactly this age from like me and other kids that I knew, and I said this is right straddling that kind of problem age for boys at 13, 14. I remember kids that I knew, and maybe even me, having this unrealistic idea like I want to go join like a mercenaries, I want to go be a hitman, I want to, like, you know what I mean, like this really extreme like action movie, like I want to go join the Foreign Legion. So that's where I was like, they did kind of cover that with like, well, he could have got across the channel, gotten to Europe, and gotten some other. But like, I didn't see anybody mention like joining things that would make you a lot harder to detect, right? Because let's say he joined something. I'm not saying he joined Al Qaeda, but let's say he joined an organization that
Jesus, please.
that was like that was like on the fringes of Western civilization, right? Or on the fringes of society, someplace that's in the developing world, whatever it could be. I mean, he could be on a ship or something. He could be like a crewman on a freighter somewhere, something like that, where that was the thing that wasn't covered as much. But I think that's a possibility. And like,
Yeah.
as much as we kind of laugh about someone going to go join the Taliban or something. Well, that frickin' did happen though. Like, we literally had teenagers from California who were like not that far off his age, who were like, when the whole 9/11 thing started, there's a couple of teenagers from California. There's a famous one who was there right at the start, right at like the whole invasion, with our special forces and stuff. They called him American Taliban. He was this kid who was just like him, who like, got into like, religion, new religion, and ran off to join like a madrasa. And all of a sudden
Mm.
he's like right in the front pages, and like he becomes like the freaking poster child of like American spoiled teen gone wrong. But okay, so that's crazy. That's a crazy theory. Let's just put it out there that like that was the only thing I hadn't really heard put out there, and I'm sure we'll
Yeah,
hear
nah,
about it in
like
the commenters.
it's
Yeah,
it's so it's so good, dude. Like I don't
a
think
long shot.
if you had to, like, let's just make it clear here.
Yeah,
I mean, I definitely
yeah,
respect this theory, but I just want to make it clear here for everyone who's listening that if you had to bet, like,
yeah.
this would not be your number one bet.
No, well, only because of the weirdness with the Slipknot stuff and all that. Like
Yeah,
that's the one part about him where I'm like, ooh, that's kind of dark. Or I mean, I don't mean dark like awful. I just mean like that's kind of a little bit more extreme personality trait than
yeah.
everything else about him. Right now, I will tell you, getting into the weird territory again. When I look at pictures of him like from that day, I don't know. I'm kind of leaning a little towards the lifestyle stuff. I'm not saying he ran away because of his lifestyle, but I don't know. He's looking a little bit like, I don't know. It's hard to tell. You know what I mean? It's an awkward age. So I mean, just his hair's a
Dude,
little bit
I
long.
just
And,
want to say, when I was his age, dude, I was looking like also like all over the place. So trust me, man, it's
I mean, was your hair long like that? And I'm
like
not saying long hair
similar,
means
dude,
anything.
like
Okay, okay.
similar, dude. Yeah,
I,
like
I I mean, like I'll say I was a foot taller than him and probably had the same weight. So I was like,
yeah,
no joke, 6 feet tall and 6'2" and weighed about 120. At
yeah,
one point, I weighed only like 100. So, like, I get looking skinny and weird and stuff. Like, I definitely felt bad about it. I guess the other thing is, okay, so let's just go down the list. So, one of them is that he was maybe groomed by somebody and lured into going on this trip to meet somebody, which, by the way, in this footage you show,
yeah.
his head's on the swivel, huh?
He's looking.
Yeah, like no one else is really looking around like he is,
He's looking.
and supposedly
He's looking.
he's looking like he's looking for somebody,
Yeah.
or you know what I mean? Because no one else is really. Everyone else kind of they know what train stop they're going. I mean, it could be just he doesn't do this trip all the time, but to me it looks like he's looking for somebody
Yeah.
that he's supposed to be meeting. So that's weird to me.
Dude, just because we're going through the theories now,
Yeah,
and I wanna, I have like this, as I've said, like this place where I have like the most common theories like lined up, and actually, it's a really good
yeah,
point that you've started out with the groomer theory, because there are two types of groomer theories here, and I think we should just like keep it structured, dissect them one by one. So, in terms of the groomer theory, there is a theory that he either met someone local, maybe in Doncaster, who groomed him and somehow, went with him on the train. By the way, one other thing I want to mention to the audience: on the train to from Doncaster to London, he was actually witnessed by a woman. Well, he was witnessed by a lot of people, but one of the women exactly remembered seeing Andrew, and what he was doing, he was just playing on his PSP all throughout the trip, and he didn't seem like he was with anyone, to my understanding. So there are two theories of the groomer potentially grooming him, and bad things happening. So one is he met someone local, and the other one is that he met someone over the internet. Now, there were speculations that he was some sort of an internet super whiz and he knew how to hide his like digital footprint, but apparently that's really not credible. So wouldn't you say that if a groomer theory is the case here, would you be leaning more towards the internet groomer or a local groomer from Doncaster?
I mean, if it's the internet, I don't get how it would have happened, because he would have had to do it. Basically, the only opportunity he would have had to do it was at school, and we have no indication of any kind of extensive school internet use. I don't know what kind of computer lab action they had back then,
Apparently,
but
I just want to step in because
yeah.
what I've read is that the police actually did a comprehensive look in the school library and things like that on the computers, and they didn't find any use of the school computers from Andrew. So apparently, he was not. Everyone, I think, believes that he wasn't even using the school computers.
And then he's never out of the house, right? He's in his freaking basement all day.
Yeah.
So yeah, it just does not align at all with, like,
Yeah.
because in other words, just put ourselves in this place. He would have made an excuse to be out of that. Oh, I gotta go to the library, mom and dad, and then he would have been at the library at least
Yeah.
using the public computer, but he didn't do that. So then the local groomer part, I also don't get, other than, like you said, the really recent new habit he had of walking home, and unfortunately we don't really have any way of metering, like, how long it was taking him to get home, I
Yeah.
guess, or I didn't notice
Uh,
that. So yeah.
it's I believe over an hour. That's the quote that I've read. So a little
But it
over an hour.
was, so I looked it up, and it was 6 kilometers, was almost exactly 4 miles. It was pretty close.
Oh, okay.
So I mean, walking pretty fast, I mean, like how he was walking in that earlier video, yeah, you could do that in about an hour. That's like 15
Okay.
minutes a mile. um I mean, that's like a pretty brisk walk, but
Yeah.
so you know what I mean? There's not even, like, for whatever kind of
Yeah.
stuff he's getting up to.
Yes.
It's fill in the blanks, right? Whatever people do.
Um. Yeah.
It's odd, right? It doesn't really, like, how would you inform a relationship? So
Exactly.
that part freaking mystifies me as well. And it doesn't even, like, by the way, like, when I was his age, I was spending a lot of time on, like, I was I think this is what, if I sound a little passionate about it,
Yeah.
it's because I see myself in, like, a lot of stuff about this kid. Like, I was in Boy Scouts and Cub Scouts. I was pretty much a loner. I spent a lot of time at home. Um, I did have friends too. It sounds like I got bullied a lot more than he did, but I mean, and it was exposed to maybe more street smart stuff at some point. But there's a lot of similarities where it's like, what did I spend my time on? But I was at the library getting books and then reading at home. So I feel like I did more reading, maybe, and messing around. Like, I read about stuff I wanted to read about. So if I wanted to read about, like, mercenaries or tanks or UFOs or, all the stuff we talk about in the show, that's why I know all
Yeah.
these weird friggin' things, is because I spent all this time reading it. It's weird to me that he didn't even really sound that into that. And by the way, he didn't even hate school that much. Like if you would have asked me when I was his age, like, hey, do you like school? No. Like, no, I hate school. He didn't even, like, if anything, school just seemed too easy for him. He didn't,
Yeah.
like, resent it. So it's super strange to me. I don't get the grooming thing. Doesn't make sense to me, other than, like, he did make
Yeah.
this trip and he seems to be looking around.
Exactly, man. So I would agree to you that maybe the groomer theory is I don't know. I just don't see the the way that he could have been groomed. To me personally, it seems like a spur of the moment situation. I think I have a theory. I'll maybe add it a little bit later if we still have the time. Now, I want to quickly jump back to one interesting point in in this timeline. It's November 2008, so this is 13 months after his disappearance. A man visits a Leominster police station in Hertford, West Midlands, and he basically used the intercom system to talk to a police officer, because he went to like the intercom system on the police station, and he pretty much said, because there it's a small town. I think we it's a good time for us to jump to the Google Earth. I also like have the location of the city. Why is Google Earth so weird today? Not wait, let me just make sure I'm doing this correctly. Okay, I have to manually do this today. Okay, whatever. This is the police station where this man in 2008, and actually let's check it out in the street view, goes to the intercom and says, I have information regarding the disappearance of Andrew Gosden, and this is happening 13 months later. And there's no police officers here because it's the middle of the night, I believe. And when the officers arrived to this police station, because on the intercom they said, hold on, a police officer will come and take your information. The man claiming that he knew something about Andrew Gosden, he had already left. And the police and the family members pleaded on the media for this man to reappear and give his information, that he could stay anonymous. And the interesting part about this is, yeah, you could think that this was just someone who was, acting foolishly at the middle of the night, just maybe drunk, read about the case the day before, and was like, I know information about Andrew Gosden, and then just ran away. But the interesting part is that this police station is actually in the middle of a business park, like where it's you would have to make some sort of an effort to go here. Like it's not surrounded by other clubs or by anything. It's it's not a small town, but as you can see, like the heart of the town is here. And we're looking on the Google Earth, and the police station is way, way, way down, like in the on the edge of the city. And so you would definitely have to make like some sort of like an effort to go here. So without stopping here for too long, we still have like quite a few points to discuss. Your thoughts on the 2008 someone claiming to know information about on Andrew Gosden?
Yeah, I'll have to pin it on to like one of the next theories because I don't have
Yeah.
much to reflect on that. It's just too sketchy.
Yeah, it's sketchy as hell. And before we jump to the other theories, there was another weird situation like that, but it happened really, like, pretty. I would say, how should I put it? Wait, let me just get us back to the CCTV. Um, in 2018, a very weird situation happened where the Gosden family, so this is not 2008, this is 2018, in the month of June, so actually quite recently, the Gosden family revealed that someone had reported an online conversation with an individual with the username Andy Rue. Now, how this connects to Andrew Gosden is that basically Andrew was actually known, like his family would used to call him Rue for some reason. I don't really understand that reason, but so someone had talked to a man online named Andy Rue, so could this be Andrew Gosden? We don't know, but this Andy Rue in 2018 claimed that their boyfriend had left them and they needed £2,000 to cover rent. So this is, the homosexual angle, I think, here, because if this was Andrew Gosden, then he would have a boyfriend, something like that, right? And when this person, right, so this Andy Rue tells this other person that he needs money to pay his rent, because he has no money and he needs 200 pounds. Now, when this other person actually offers to send them the money, Andy Rule tells this person that he does not have a bank account because he had left home when he was 14. Okay, so just as Andrew Gosden. And now this link was investigated by police, but the individual behind the nickname Andy Roo has never been identified. And yeah, these were like the two weird details. So what do you make of this one?
I mean, I feel like the nickname is common because like Andrew is often just shortened to Drew. It's like all these common names on it. So I just feel like that part I'm not so blown away by. It is even the runaway part. I gotta say that's probably the
Yeah.
reason why that's one of the reasons why this is one of the things they're looking for this case is because, yeah, some amount of um, GLBT youth run away from home because of issues at home. So maybe it's not like a super rare reason for someone to leave home.
I want to address another interesting theory regarding him going to potentially see a live show in London because he was wearing his Slipknot t-shirt. Now, there wasn't Slipknot was definitely not playing, but apparently, and this was a weird situation, apparently multiple bands were playing, so 30 Seconds to Mars was playing, but I don't get it. It was if it was on the same day or it was 3 days later because the timestamps got me really confused here. Also, a final tour of the band Skith was happening also in London. Now, Skith was actually the warmer, like the band that would warm up Slipknot, like back in the day. So maybe that was a connection. And then also a Finnish, a band from Finland called Him also had a show, and apparently all of these bands had a show that night to London. But apparently there's a theory that maybe Andrew went to see one of these bands. Now, what actually is weird about this that Andrew apparently had been to bands to like shows before with his parents. So it would be weird for him to completely out of the ordinary dodge like that because it's not like his parents would. Well, obviously, maybe they would forbid him to go to London for a show, but I don't know. It just doesn't. Maybe he did see the show, but apparently there no one had identified him from the pictures. I believe I don't think any professionals looked at the band at the show pictures. Maybe he could be located in one of those shows. I mean, that's if we could get like some pictures and analyze them, I think that would be a great podcast for sure. So, dude, your opinions on him going to London to see a live show theory?
I actually lean towards this one. I mean, I wonder what shows mommy and daddy went to him with. Did they go to the the,
Slipknot.
the death metal shows? Like I don't know. I mean I could see that's definitely the age where you don't necessarily want to go to like rock concerts or musical performances with mom and dad. So like
Exactly.
that actually seems plausible to me. I wonder if there's an age limit at these shows though, but I could kind of see how like maybe nobody would even notice him.
Yeah, I mean, just a handful of other theories before we give our final takes on it. So, yeah, I want to go through the ones that I personally feel the most likely I would like to leave at the end. So, the next one would be that he ran off to start a new life or like just a runaway. So, for me personally, I just don't have the sense here that he ran away to start a new life. A lot of things are out of whack for me, like him leaving the 100 pounds at his home, him being super close with his sister, him seeming pretty normal and rational, and really, from what we're gathering, not showing any. Emotional distress, well, other than him wearing Slipknot t-shirts. That's definitely probably out of the ordinary, but still I just don't have the also not taking the charger. for me personally, I just don't necessarily see him waking up that morning with the intention of, that's it, I'm running away forever. You know what I mean? What are your thoughts, man?
Yeah, I mean that doesn't make sense to me, and that just like for the reasons we said, he didn't. I think his mom said he didn't even bring a sweater.
Yeah.
I mean, come on, like he didn't bring any clothes. He put his clothes in the wash. He didn't even bring all his money. Like what? Who leaves 100 pounds is a lot of money.
Yeah. Especially if and it's like 1/3 of your net worth.
Yeah.
So it's like, what are you doing, man? Okay, so only two theories. Well, there is another theory that maybe his disappearance is somehow linked to the disappearance of Alex Slowly, who was also a math whiz, and he was 16 and he disappeared apparently. Let's see here. At, yeah, just 2 days before. Yeah, so basically, this other kid, Alex Slowly, he was a math with he disappeared from London. I think within the same year, or like within the next 12 months. I think it was 8 months, but I might be mistaken. After Andrew disappeared, and apparently there's not that much information of how they could link, just that they both were good at math, they both were teenagers, and they disappeared from London. So and some like English London detective person like established this theory, and I think it's really just like really weak circumstantial evidence. So I just want to skip past that one because there's nothing linking that theory. But I want to go through the two probably more likely theories in my opinion. So I don't know which one is the more likely here for me personally, but I'll just start off with him going to London and an accident happening, but not necessarily an accident where, like, it could be any accident, him drowning unfortunately somewhere, getting lost, or maybe running into muggers who like see a young kid with a PSP, and a PSP was a valuable thing back in the day. So him getting killed over the PSP, things like that, you know what I mean, like and then I have one other theory. I think you know what I'm talking about for the last theory that I want to put out here. But before we jump to that one, that really dark theory that I have, what is your thought about some sort of an accident happening to Andrew in London, hence like I don't know, a drowning, getting lost, getting mugged, type of a situation? What are your thoughts, man?
Yeah, and that was interesting because once again, at least in this case, they thought about that. So I mentioned this a bunch of times, and I was kind of interested to hear it come up in the interview with his father. Was that they were like, well, yeah, what if he fell in the friggin' Thames River and drowned? So they actually at some point dragged the river, and they didn't find his body, but they found someone else's body, and that body had concrete shoes. So
Whoa.
yeah, it was like, I never. It was so interesting because I always heard that the concrete shoes thing was kind of like like not real, like, but I mean, apparently when they give it to you, like you're dead already, so it's just to make your body
Yeah.
sink to the bottom, and really, like, what if I always thought that wouldn't work because your legs could rot away, then the body would come back to the top, but apparently that wasn't true.
Yeah.
So, it is. I think that's one of the things I always think of is like if there's an accident. Well, like if you get hit by a car, I feel like there's like blood and drag marks and damage to the car, but and it's in like a crowded city, right? It's the most urban city or one of the most crowded cities in that whole area. So only a waterway or the beach would have the ability to remove your body without you moving your body, um,
Yeah.
and then maybe destroy that body. So yeah, I kind of lean towards that, and also I'll add on to that even. Um, like the possibility that, like you said, he ran into somebody. I mean, part of me wants to just discount that, but then we have these weird, disturbing disappearances like Brian Schaefer, Michael Negrete, Asha Degree, where you're like, well, where's the person? Like the person, I mean, like Michael Negrete or Brian Schaefer,
Yeah.
I mean, literally, no one saw. They were in a building. They were in a building, and then they weren't. And
Yeah.
nobody, you know what I mean, in the middle of a city surrounded by cameras,
Yeah.
and they're gone. Or Asha Degree takes a walk for half a mile down the road, and she's gone.
Wow. Yeah.
Like, what's going on? So like that part does make me think,
Yeah.
like, as much as I want to be skeptical, yeah, and it seems like anything's possible.
Yeah, I mean, also, we have cases like Timothy Pitzen, like Chiron Hormone, where, we deep down we know what happened. You know what I mean? But these cases that you've just mentioned, like we don't know what happened. Now, this is the really dark one. The theory that, unfortunately, and I have like some sort of a strange feeling that maybe this could have been the case, as bad as it sounds, that maybe he went there to London to commit suicide. And this is the last one that we have. And why I think that could be the case is, well, his actions throughout the day, for me personally, seemed like he was unsure of what he's gonna do for the next day. Like, do I want to go? Do I want that 50 pence ticket back home? Nah, if I don't, end up committing suicide in London, I'll just buy a ticket back. Um, him leaving early in the morning and then going to the ATM, maybe he just, sure, I'll take the £200. What the heck, you know what I mean? Him going to the back home, getting the PSP but not taking the charger, he's like, whatever, you know what I mean? I don't need to take the charger. Maybe he wasn't taking the charger with him all the time, so it was like, I'll just grab the PSP. And maybe he went to London, but he didn't necessarily knew what he was gonna do in London. Like he didn't knew if he's gonna actually, commit suicide or not. He just was like, I need to break the routine because the routine is killing me, because he was like doing the routine really well. So maybe he was like, I can't do this anymore. I just need to get away. I just need to go to London. I just need to do something crazy. I don't know if I'm gonna kill myself. I don't know what I'm gonna do. But he goes there and he, does end up killing himself. So, yeah. What are your thoughts, man?
I mean, it fits from one point of view, definitely. Like the that for someone that seems so prepared and with all the steps in place and able to carry it out, and like only exactly bringing what he would have needed for a short trip, and not 1 cent more, literally.
Yeah.
So not one little, not no sweater, no charger, like no return ticket. But then I gotta ask, well, a couple things. One is, why did he put the uniform in the wash? So that's strange to me. Like, maybe just habit.
Yeah,
Maybe
I think habit, dude. I feel like I would not
just
maybe look at it as you're looking at, like him like trying to return to a like clean uniform. I would probably say, habit, just as well as not taking the charger, habit.
like the same reason why I didn't like take a crap on the floor or something, I guess. Okay,
Yeah,
so
yeah,
yeah, maybe
yeah.
that just like you don't do that. Um, okay, and then I guess the other question is, well, why? I kind of like your explanation that he was still kind of working it out, and maybe wanted to see if he could, spend his money a little bit or experience something before he made that final decision. Maybe to put some distance between himself and where his family was, so that he wouldn't sort of like make his hometown the gruesome scene of his own death, or suicide. But then, how does he how does he make his body disappear?
Yeah, that's what we have to talk about. Like how does his body not is not located at this point, and how would he even, you know commit the the act. You know what I mean? Like, what do you think
Yeah.
is the? Because what I've seen being put forward is a lot of people are focusing on him jumping off of a structure, either a bridge or maybe a tall building. But I would think that committing such an act would probably end up with your remains being located, most likely.
Yeah. I mean, like the California, well, by the way, it happens all the time. Like, it's interesting. People don't realize that suicides happen almost twice as much as murders. So every day there's lots of suicides that happen that are not reported. Um, so, like, even here in a city like this, people jump off of buildings, they jump off of parking structures. You just don't hear about it because it's not considered in good taste usually to cover it. Um, and here in California, the Golden Gate Bridge,
Oh yeah,
it happens a lot. It happens like every at least a couple times a week. They've put up, unfortunately, they put up fences and nets and
yeah,
stuff, which I
yeah,
think is
yeah. I
it's
know. Yeah,
yeah, it's another topic. Yeah, but yeah, it happens. It happens a lot. So that I was always think that the Golden Gate Bridge is a good example of some place where I feel like you could jump in, and then your body could get swept out to sea because it's like a pretty robust
yeah,
set of currents there. But then I don't know how that works for like the Thames and the bridges that go over that, and whether it would even be that easy to get rid of your body reliably and not have it wash up on the sides, or just be someplace where a lot of people in boats could see it.
yeah. Since I think we'll be wrapping up shortly. This once again has been a really long episode. So just to sum it up, right? For me personally, this is a complete mystery, and as we always usually leave our final like ideas on what happened. So before you tell your final, I guess, idea or whatever, my like quick thought about this, situation is that I don't see him maybe meeting someone. I don't know. I just don't see that to be the case. I see it to be more of a spur in the moment action where he's maybe really wanting to change something in his routine, but I could be completely wrong here. A really big disclaimer: I could be completely wrong here. I wouldn't put it past him actually meeting someone. Maybe he liked his lifestyle. You know what I mean? He was a really smart kid. Apparently, he had some friends, and he was, I think his life wasn't like, at least physically or like physically really difficult, maybe emotionally for him for some reason, but physically there didn't seem to be a lot of hardships in his life. So I don't know. I don't. I feel like this was a spur in the moment situation, but I'm not gonna put it completely past it that maybe he was going to meet someone, you know what I mean? Or maybe it was the band that he was going to see and something bad happened. I'm not gonna put it past that, but for me personally, just the fact that he was such a smart kid and his actions, even though they were planned to some extent, but they weren't super well planned, if you know what I mean. Because what worked for him, let's remember, is the fact that the school messed up and didn't inform the family. So it wasn't like this super great plan, you know what I mean, to meet someone in secrecy, because the only way how this worked out for him and he was not noticed to be missing up until the evening of the 14th is because the school messed up. If the school hadn't messed up, then there's a good chance he would have been stopped in his tracks potentially. But that did not happen. So, and I also get a sense that maybe he is not the type of person to just run away forever. I think, unfortunately, I believe he's already not alive anymore, as sad as it may sound, but yeah, that's just my thought. That this was not super well planned because the school messing up worked in his favor, and I think he didn't know what he was doing in London. He was just like, I need to go to London for one reason or another. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I mean, it's, I guess, just for my take on the whole thing, I mean, to me, this is, if it wasn't a suicide, a planned suicide, then it had some similar elements in that there were some elements of selfishness to this, and maybe not thinking about what the effects were on his family. And I can't help but wonder, given, just kind of the brief insights we have into his life, it seems like he didn't have a lot of, like, on one hand, he had all this potential and he was exposed to kind of all this academic enrichment and maybe some degree of cultural enrichment and family life. But then his daily life is, it's a weird kind of grind. You know what I mean? Like, it's very one dimensional. It doesn't even sound like he was really into that much stuff. Like, he's into like his, death metal or whatever, and he's into his PSP, and it's sort of like not super imaginative. And I could imagine somebody maybe getting a weird form of depression from just the routine because things are too easy. And I don't know if he planned his own death. I don't. It's. I mean, when I look at him now, at first I just thought he was looking for somebody, but maybe he's just looking around with wonder at the world around him. And I don't know. I wish he would have taken a little more care with these actions because, yeah, I mean, all of us have at any point in time, and maybe this is like an appeal to the audience because there's always like points where you feel like, you're at the end of your rope or you don't have choices. We all have a lot of choices, and even when you have expectations and people that are relying on you, you still have more freedom than you think, and you still can, I think, exercise that freedom and, still retain a lot of the relationships and things in your life that you might not think would be there otherwise. So, that's, I guess that's a way of saying that, like, sometimes people think like, well, if I go do this or I go do that, all these other things aren't going to happen or people are going to hate me or whatever. But it's not necessarily true. Um, we have a lot more choices, and, once again, it just seems like such a shame that not only is this somebody promising who disappeared, but I mean, from what we can see, it was his fault. Now, I don't mean that that's entirely his fault or that he wanted this to happen, but it clearly was because of his actions that whatever happened was set in motion. And, something else happened to him afterwards. It doesn't mean, if someone did like take advantage of him, that doesn't mean it's his, like he deserved that, but he had some hand in, setting it in motion.
Yeah, yeah, definitely. I mean, he did, go on this trip, but I will say I feel kind of really sorry for him, also for him having the need to go to this trip. If this was like a sort of I just need to get out of the routine type of a situation. So, I mean, hopes up for Andrew. Maybe he will turn up. Wouldn't necessarily think that's a high probability given all the time, and I think the parents also sort of started to lean towards maybe him being uh, not alive anymore. So yeah, guys, this has been another episode of the Solvable Mysteries Podcast. Once again, another longer episode. We tried to keep them more tame, but well, at least we did better than last time. So yeah, guys, thank you so much for joining us this week. As always, leave a like, leave a subscribe, leave your theory on what happened to Andrew Gosden. Like, I'm really curious this time because on most of these cases we are all leaning towards a certain angle, but here there are so many angles. I want to know your guys' take on the case. Leave a rating on the podcast tabs if you're listening to this on the podcast tabs. That means so much to us. And as always, guys, we'll catch you next time. And for now, stay safe and peace out.